Good morning, everybody. Oh, here we go.
There we go.
Little production error there. We're ready to go. It's Tuesday morning. It is another edition of One True Sport Daily. I am your host, Ryan Droste of Top Rope Nation, with the other host, Zack Heydorn of Brass Ring Media. Zack calling in from the road again. He's in downtown Chicago right now. Zack, how you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Yep, down in the big city today, doing some other day job stuff, and so found a nice little spot outside and skyscrapers all around. So if you hear some horns honking, just know like that's how it goes here. So yeah, it's a beautiful day. Lots to talk about, man. So pumped to be here. This is a big show.
Yeah. I see Eddie, member of the One True Sport crew, is checking in the chat. Good morning, Eddie. Let us know if you are in the chat this morning. Get involved in the show, like we always say. You can send us your super chats, get those read on the air, and support what Zack and I do every single day here for One True Sport. And if you want to become a member, go to onetruesport.com. Bonus shows, special members-only question and answer sessions with some of the biggest legends in pro wrestling history, like Rob Van Dam, Kurt Angle, Arn Anderson, Medusa, Magnum TA. The list goes on and on. You guys check it out. It's onetruesport.com. So last night, Zack, it was the go-home show for WWE SummerSlam this Saturday in Cleveland. Raw was in St. Paul, Minnesota, the XL Energy Center. Hot crowd for most of the night, although with one notable exception that I want to ask you about, Zack. Has the voice of the voiceless lost his voice? Because what did you think of that segment with CM Punk and Drew McIntyre?
Man, it's so bizarre. Like really kind of a weird segment, if you ask me, on multiple levels. First of all, I'm distracted here. Look at that shirt that you got on, man. Good.
Oh yeah,
gracious.
This.
Holy cow! Look at that beauty.
There it is.
Look at that thing. God dang, that's beauty. That's a beautiful thing. I love that.
I said yesterday I was gonna promote it, and then I'm wearing it. I forgot to even talk about it. My God, yeah, the One True Sport Daily. There it is. It's our merch. It arrived yesterday. You guys can get that at onetruesport.com as well.
God, man, it's sharp. That's sharp. I don't know how I'm going to do the show now when you're wearing that thing. But anyway, I'll try. Listen, I thought the CM Punk thing was really, really weird and like all in, like not on the level that you want him to deliver at on a week-to-week basis, especially going into a huge feud, or not huge feud, but a huge match in the middle of a huge feud on the second biggest show of the year. Look, I think there's a lot working against him with this right now. The first being he hasn't wrestled a match yet. I think the novelty of seeing CM Punk in these talking segments is just kind of wearing off a little bit. Like the honeymoon period there is over. You could get away with putting him out there for a promo here, a promo there, an appearance here, an appearance there, but eventually, people want to see their wrestlers wrestle in the ring, and he just hasn't been able to do that because of the injury. I think they've tried to milk all they can out of CM Punk not wrestling. And I think they've reached the point of, okay, there's no returns on that anymore. We got to get him in the ring. Luckily, they're going to do that on Saturday. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I think Seth Rollins' involvement here really hurts Punk. Because Seth's a loved babyface at this point in his WWE career. And the two of them are feuding with one another. And so I think that automatically dilutes some of the fan reaction to him because people are going to side with Seth now. Punk hasn't been around in 10 years. That's the entirety of Seth's, main roster run came into effect essentially right when CM Punk left. So, it's a different world, and I don't think people really want to choose between Punk and Seth right now when they're not having a match together. Instead, you have Punk out there just kind of going back and forth with Seth, and it just, I don't know, it's a little unbecoming of him. And then the third factor is Drew McIntyre is just really cool. He's just a really cool character right now. He's a really cool character. He's on fire, on the microphone. he's more than held up his end of the bargain as far as being opposite Punk. And I don't know that Punk's been able to hold his own with Drew. And you add all those things together, and I think, the lukewarm reception is kind of predictable when you kind of look at all the pieces individually. So not a good night for that program, not a good night for Punk. I still maintain that the Rollins thing is just unnecessary at this point. I think it takes away from what drew people to this match at the beginning, which is just Drew and Punk. That's it. And now there's a Seth factor there. And I just don't think you need that.
Yeah. And totally there with you. An astute point on Seth Rollins. Because, yeah, he's kind of siphoning off some of his crowd heat. No question about it. I thought McIntyre was easily the star. We talked about this on the show yesterday. Rollins is going to, continue to wear the flamboyant outfits, but we were hoping he wouldn't do the cackle. He didn't do the cackle, Zach. So he's being more serious, which I love out of Rollins. But yeah, it was just like Punk was just kind of there. Usually he thrives in these kind of scenarios where you got the one-on-one mic battle, and McIntyre just came off way better, I thought. And it appeared. Yeah, I've heard that these two, they get just a couple of sentences of instructions and they go out and kind of wing it. Like they clear with each other what they're going to say because you don't want to upset CM Punk with one of your comments. But as we've seen in the past. But I mean, they pretty much have a lot of freedom out there. And man, McIntyre is rolling. Like I thought the line he had about I'm going to get paid for something that I would do for free was the best line of the entire promo. But then like when it was Punk's turn to talk, it seemed like he was kind of stumped a few times. There was this one time where it was this awkward silence and he just stood there and he smiled and he kind of just like looked around the arena. And I don't know if he was expecting chants, but the chants never came. And honestly, he was like trying to get them to chant. He didn't seem like he was that over as a babyface last night. I don't know if just the shtick is starting to run out and he needs to do something to get the people behind him more than what he's been doing every single week. Because as you mentioned, he's just been talking and he hasn't worked in the ring. But I mean, man, that it seemed at the start the fans were more behind McIntyre. McIntyre was getting some cheers up there in Minnesota. Very lukewarm response to CM Punk, I thought, last night. And that was the first time I've really noticed that. We've talked about this on the show that eventually this might happen just because McIntyre's so cool and really good at what he does. But I just felt like it was happening last night, and Punk was like really trying to get him to chant for him, and he just didn't come off great last night. It was definitely an off night for him.
I think too, it's just a weird dynamic now where, Drew McIntyre is doing like the Punk bit like better than Punk is, like being the guy who's off the cuff on the microphone and edgy, cool. I mean, like, I think there's an argument to be made, maybe not right now. Like, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here. We still got the match to go through. We'll have to see what they do on that. But it's almost like, remember when Chris Jericho kind of came back? What was that, 2007, and tried to play the Y2J hits, and it just was like it was fine, but it wasn't like it just ran its course. And I wonder if Punk's getting to that point where like it's just kind of run its course, and it's time to do something else. I don't mean like a total character overhaul, but just a tweak here, a tweak there. We'll see what kind of reception he gets, in Cleveland at SummerSlam. Really, we got to see what kind of match he can have. But he's got a lot to prove, I think, with this match. Can he put the crowd on his side? Can he wrestle a match and get through it without getting hurt? Can he, weave whatever he's going to weave into it with Seth Rollins and get to whatever they're going to do there next or down the road at WrestleMania or what have you? But I think he's really got to prove his worth kind of at this point. And if he goes out there and has a really good match, I think people will largely forget last night. But if he doesn't, this kind of thing can compound itself over and over and over and over. And all of a sudden, 6 weeks from now, CM Punk could be, getting booed or something like that. So, I mean, it's not over, but it's really time for him to step up and deliver.
Yeah. Easily the most interesting match on the show for all of the
Yeah,
reasons that you listed. And I thought it was kind of odd how Cole made the comment that, it's his first singles match for WWE in 10 years when he wrestled those, I think it was 2 house show matches. And they showed clips of him on television, did they not? Like he worked
they
at
did.
the Garden, I believe, and they promoted it on TV. So now they're telling you, oh no, he hasn't had any singles matches. But all of that
Hey,
aside,
WWE never they never rewrite history. They
yeah,
never,
right,
never, never.
right. Uh, yeah, and then the health issue is I put this out there on the Top Rope Nation Twitter account last night is a big issue. I mean, I don't want the guy to get hurt, but look, he got injured in a Royal Rumble, which is not the most strenuous type of match you can work as a wrestler. And in his last 16 matches, he's had 3 very serious injuries. Now, one of those was because he dove into the crowd, but the other 2, the all out match with Moxley, got hurt, re-injures himself here in the Royal Rumble. He hasn't had a long run without getting injured. And so everyone's going to be thinking about his health. Can he come through? A lot more pressure in a singles match than a multi-man match. Arguably, I would say this is the biggest match on the show. It's not going to be the main event. They can push Cody and Solo, however hard they want. This is the real main event of the show. By the way, did you see that the SummerSlam hashtag on Twitter, the little icon that WWE paid for on there is a Solo Sikoa face? I mean, they're really trying hard.
Real? That's what that is?
Yeah.
That's what that's supposed to? I was tweeting something last night and I used that and I was like, what the hell is that thing? Like, I couldn't tell. Like, it's a person, but that's really weird.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't look like Solo Sikoa.
No, I had to zoom in really close. Let's see if I can bring it up on the screen. And
That's
I'm
crazy.
looking at it, I'm like, what is that Solo Sikoa? But you can tell. Here we go. Let me put this on the stream. You guys can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to share this here.
Let's do it.
Just a second. Oh, let's see. Where is this tab? Okay. Check this out. If you zoom in far enough, you can tell it's him just from the hair.
Oh
color,
yeah. Now that you've said it, now that makes sense. That makes sense. Goodness
that's
gracious.
not good, Zach.
Wow.
If you can't tell who it is at first glance, that's not good for the guy's star power is headlining the show.
No, it's not. And also it's just weird. Like have they done a face like that for anybody before? Usually it's some kind of SummerSlam logo or a WrestleMania logo or something like that. I mean, that's bizarre. I mean, Solo's not even a top 5 star on this show, let alone it's crazy. I think Rhea certainly plays higher than him. Drew, Punk, Seth, Cody. I mean, Gunther. I'd probably put Damian Priest ahead of him too. I mean, that's trying too hard. That's WWE trying too hard.
Phil checking in the chat. Good morning, Phil. As I said, Eddie is here. Andrew checking in now. Eddie noting in the chat, first singles match on TV. That is absolutely correct, but that's not what Michael Cole said. He said first singles match. And yeah, it's his first singles match on TV, though. That is absolutely true. So a lot of intrigue heading into that. Also last night, they had a tag match with Otis and Tozawa against the Creed brothers. Creed brothers won, but the big story was afterwards when Maxine Dupree slapped Chad Gable. By the way, he's a Minnesotan, so they had to try hard to get him booed. I think the last time they had a Raw up there, he was in an IC title match, and that crowd was really behind him. And so they did their best to get him booed, and then Maxine ends up, slapping him. The lights go out. Wyatt Six enters. You get Eric Rowan, Joe Gacy, and Dexter Lumis, who removed their masks, and they took out Gable, and eventually Gable kind of wandered off up the ramp. Nikki Cross was out there as well. She did the cross body to Gable. And then Uncle Howdy, Bo Dallas, came out from the stage as Gable wandered off. And there was kind of an amusing backstage segment too, where Gable was like, I know who those guys are. It's Gacy and Loomis and Rowan. And he's like, Yeah, I know. They're under WWE contract, man. He just kind of shook his head at him with Pierce. I thought that was pretty funny. But what do you think of the Wyatt Six last night?
I thought it was a really, really good night for them. Pivotal, like a pivotal moment um, for them. And it might seem small, but the unmasking, them unmasking and taking the masks off and hitting the ring as just the people, Gacy and Rowan and Loomis, right? That's huge for like the future of this, not just this story, but like this kind of story in WWE. It's not, it takes it out of like horror movie land and puts it in a wrestling ring. And that has always been the biggest issue with like the Bray Wyatt type stuff, the Wyatt family type stuff, the supernatural type stuff with them, where it existed and it was cool, but then they had to wrestle in the ring. And then it just didn't make sense to have like this super monster fiend guy like there. It just didn't work. This pro wrestling is about, at its core, humans wrestling, winning matches, trying to, win championships and whatnot. And I think when you put a face, see, I told you it was going to happen. I told you, hustle and bustle. Sit out here. There hasn't been a siren in like 35 minutes. And of course, we recorded. Now there is.
Sounds like a fire engine or something.
Yes. Hopefully, the He Who Shall Not Be Named building is right over there. And luckily it's out of my shot. Thank goodness.
Can't have that in the background. Yeah.
No. Can't have that. But this put
of course
names
he's talking
to faces.
about John Hancock. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. Go ahead.
No. That's yes, of course.
That damn smuggler. Yeah.
Oh man, God, I'm
History
losing
teacher joke. I'm sorry. Go on,
Zach. Yes, the historian Ryan Droste talk.
Yeah.
Lost my train of thought now because of that history lesson.
No,
bottom line, you got to put faces with like real human faces behind this, and I think they did that. And now I think that you can go anywhere with them. They don't have to live in this like horror movie bucket. You can do whatever you want because they look like actual wrestlers wrestling matches. Yes, they're a little weird. Yes, they've got like dark twisted past. Yes, they have the masks that like are part of the presentation. But when they get in the ring, it's just guys versus other guys, and that I think is a key. It's a key thing to put out there.
Yeah, we've talked about this in the past that, that's going to help them overcome the stigma of like the supernatural character and being able to transition into working matches. Is can they unmask and do a regular match? Because you can't wrestle spooky matches. We've seen that in the past, and they proved they can unmask and they can do a little bit. So, they asked for later on the 6-man tag next week. And, we're going to actually get them in a real match. So that happened last night. Bronson Reed defeated Sheamus. They had a pretty good match. There was interference from Pete Dunne. So they're setting up Sheamus and Dunne down the line, which will be excellent. Jey Uso wrestled Carlito. Big spot in the match as Uso hit a spear while Carlito had apple in his mouth and he spit it everywhere. And, Uso got the win. This was set up backstage. Judgment Day, basically, I think, wasn't it Ripley had said that he needed to wrestle Jey Uso and he was stunned because he thought like Dominic was going to get the match or something like that. But anyways, Carlito wrestled Jey Uso and took the L. No surprise.
I love the line that he had about, I got to get my baby oil, but okay.
Oh yeah.
I guess I'll wrestle. That was great.
That was funny. Xavier Woods took an L to Karrion Kross. I don't really have any deep thoughts there unless you do, Zach.
I mean, it's good to feed the Final Testament some wins, I guess, but this is still a low card can be.
Yeah. What did you think of the I guess the show, the entire show line story between Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley? I mean, this went on all show long. They had the Rhea alluding to everything that's happening in these backstage segments where Liv had like sabotaged the Judgment Day's locker room and written all over the walls and stuff. And then they had this pre-tape where Liv Morgan was burning Dominic and Rhea t-shirts and crying. What did you make of all of this?
Man, I don't think it was a good presentation of Liv Morgan as world champion. Like I just think that like they pivoted really far in a week's time, excuse me, where she goes from like this kind of calculated, manipulative champion who's there to manipulate Dom so that she can get under Rhea's skin. And now she's like this unhinged woman who lost her boyfriend and is burning his stuff and his property and kind of defacing the Judgment Day locker room. It just seemed like it's a total pivot. And I think they're doing this because they want to get people to think that her and Dom aren't on the same page, so that if and when SummerSlam comes around, they can do a swerve. And I think they had themselves on a better track where you have Liv be this manipulative heel. She's trying to get under the skin of Rhea via Dom, and then it works. And then it works in the end. And she captures Dom in her web, and Dom either accidentally costs Rhea the match or purposely costs Rhea the match. But like at no point in this did you ever feel like Liv was just like head over heels in love with Dominic, and that's how she acted yesterday. And I just thought it was really just too far of a pivot for a swerve that everybody really knows is coming. And I just thought it was ineffective ahead of a title match. Rhea, I thought was fine. I thought Rhea was good, talking about winning the title back, talking about, having Dom back. Okay, I thought that was fine. But Liv was the part that really kind of confused me.
Yeah, I agree, because you're right. Until last week, kind of, it seemed the whole storyline was that she was manipulating Dom. Like when Rhea came back, they had that video of her running away, and then she was like laughing to herself. This is exactly what she wanted. Like nobody ever believed Liv Morgan was interested in Dominic Mysterio, did they? Like it was clear that she was totally working him to get under the skin of Rhea, and then all of a sudden last week they pivot to Dom running her down, and she's trying to work up tears, and then this big tear-filled promo is like, wait, what's going on now? Because for months it's just been that she's taking advantage of him and making him look dumb. Nobody would ever believe she was actually into him, right? Yeah, it was odd pivot. I agree with you there, 100%.
It's well said, man. Yeah, exactly. That was the story. And I think like the thing is, it's like it was good. It was fine. It was fine the way it was. I think it would have been better just to not have Liv on TV this week as opposed to this, because this, again, it changed the dynamic. And I can they get out of it? Sure. Depending on what they do, Liv and Dom cut a promo together. I mean, yes, they can get this to a good place. Just an unnecessary and bizarre chapter. Yeah.
So Sammy wrestled Dom later in the show, and Sammy's got great reaction from the crowd in Minnesota, as he does every single week. They were back and forth. Dominic looked like he was doing all right out there. I think this was the match where McAfee had his one good line last night where he said something like Mysterio is the Michael Phelps of insufferability. Which, I mean, to me, that describes Pat McAfee lately. I'm going to be real honest with,
it's like looking in a mirror, huh, Pat?
I mean, Pat McAfee's been real bad lately, but that was a good line. I'll give him credit there. In the end, Carlito and McDonough got involved, and there was a DQ finish. So Sammy won by DQ, and eventually Braun Breaker comes out and goes after Sami Zayn to build up to their IC title match at SummerSlam. Deep thoughts on this one, Zach, or should we move on?
Deep thoughts? No, I think they hit the nail on the head with the Braun Breaker presentation, though. Yeah. I think short and sweet backstage, little pre-tape promo, in the ring, kind of doing his thing, attacking from behind, like let his charisma, personality do the rest. I think less is more, and I thought they did a nice job there.
Yeah. We also had a 6-woman tag where Zoe Stark, Shayna Baszler, and Sonya Deville defeated Lyra Valkyria, Katana Chance, and Kaden Carter. And after the match, Damage Control came back, and they had this face-to-face backstage where they talked about how they're going to run the show now, and basically Baszler's group and Deville, they're going to discard them, and then Deville, Baszler, and Starks took them out backstage. So that's going to be your 3 versus 3 feud now moving forward on Raw. Any thoughts here?
It's fine. It's fine. They got to fill 3 hours. I wouldn't. Not exactly a Reed endorsement, but I would not put Lyra Valkyria with the party girls anymore. That was that did not fit. That did not fit at all. Like, she comes out looking like this weird bird thing, and then she's dancing it up with the party girls. Doesn't that does not match well. I abort on that immediately.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So Damage Control versus Sonya's group here. Who's the babyface?
Well, a good question. I mean, I think it's Damage Control. I mean, they kind of they're not baby faces, but clearly the other group are the bullies of the Raw women's division, right? They're throwing their weight around. I mean, I think that's in the end, that's what we're going to get to. But I think it's just you don't want to turn babyface because your heel counterparts just don't want you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really want to return babyface just because you're returning after a couple of months absence. And it's not even a couple of months, it's a couple of weeks that they haven't been around. It's weird. They've had their entirety of their time on the main roster as heels. And I think if you're going to turn them, you want to do more than just have them walk out and challenge that group in particular, because there's just not enough there yet.
Yeah. Main event, Gunther against Finn Balor. I thought they did a good job. Again, there was an empty arena promo with Gunther. Damian Priest had a backstage promo pre-taped. As I was watching this, it seemed like a lock for months that Gunther is going to win the world title. But man, I got to tell you, Damian Priest has really grown into this role. I mean, I think we see a higher ceiling for Gunther as a heel champion with more baby faces to work with opposite, which is definitely one of the big arguments for changing the title. But I could see them looking at Damian Priest and being like, man, I don't know. Maybe we should give him a little more time here. He's really grown into this role a lot. I thought he came off great. Gunther had a good match. Gunther won with a sleeper. And then afterwards, we had, all the guys run out, and Damian Priest came out and he brawled with Gunther, and that was kind of the end of the show. So, I mean, what do you think about all of that? Just Damian Priest and his growth as world champion and the main event match.
I thought it was the best thing on the show throughout the show. The Priest Gunther pre-tapes and the main event, and then the angle at the end. And I think it's the best built match for SummerSlam. I mean, honestly, when you pull back, I don't know that it's the most exciting match on that night or the biggest match. I just think it's the best built one from the ground up. And really, it was truly from the ground up. I mean, the fact that this match has any heat at this point, if you would have said 6 months ago, it's going to be Damian Priest versus Gunther in the main event of SummerSlam, I think you'd be like, what? Really? And I think they've got it to a really good position. Priest has put a lot out there as a babyface, as a reason why he's fighting to beat Gunther. And usually when babyfaces do that, they win, because, you don't want your babyface going out there promising all this stuff and then not making good. So I think that's made this really, really intriguing, and he's done it and talked in a believable way where you are behind him. And I think that's really important going into the match, where it's not as predictable as it would have been, as it was four weeks ago. I still think Gunther wins, but Damian Priest certainly has fallen right into place in this role as a babyface. I think he's more natural. Like, I think his natural charisma kind of shines through as this babyface, and it's good for Monday Night Raw. He's a highlight of Raw, and you know, you just a few years ago, there's no way that would have been in the card. So this has been a really good thing for him, and I'm looking forward to that match at SummerSlam. Even if it is third from the top.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at this roster, I got to give Damian Priest probably more credit than anyone on this roster this year, as far as like his growth as a wrestler, because they put him in a situation that was, for all the reasons we've laid out now for weeks, very hard to succeed in. Made this guy a world champion because he had the briefcase when he was clearly like at best fifth top guy in that division, and like it was hard to buy him as world champion. And then they tell him, all right, now we got to turn you babyface because you're going to be working against another heel at SummerSlam. And he's grown into this role, and he's really evolved as a performer. His character work's been top notch. His promos, he just gives off such like a cool vibe in his promos. I mean, I just really admire what the guy's done the last couple of months. I think if I was to give them at least on Monday Night Raw, like an MVP this year so far, it would be him, just because of the challenges that they've stacked in front of him, and he's continued to come through. And I think, I would still pick Gunther too, but he has definitely earned another look as world champion down the line. And can you imagine if they had another PLE in Puerto Rico and he headlined that show?
Oh man,
the kind of response he would get.
That would be huge. Be huge. I mean, and you're right. I mean, I think he is the MVP. I mean, with Drew there, you got to throw him in the conversation, but he's had a great year. I mean, he really, when he won the championship at WrestleMania, my thought was, all right, well, they had to get rid of the briefcase somehow. Yeah, you don't want Damian Priest. He's not a guy that's on the list that you want on a list of guys who lost their cash in. So, okay, we're going to give him the title. But at that point, there was no sense that he was going to go on like an actual title run, at least not in my eyes. And here we are, a few months later, he's had meaningful title defenses, big wins over Drew, over Seth Rollins. And, now he's put himself in a conversation where if they do keep the title on him at SummerSlam for some reason, I think that's totally like a reasonable booking decision based on his momentum right now. Again, I don't think that's the way they're going to go, but 5 weeks ago, I would have said absolutely not. Like, this belt's going on Gunther, and Priest is the sacrificial lamb in that endeavor. Not anymore. I mean, I really think he's painted himself into a position where it's like, okay, he's going to lose the title, sure, but then what? What's he going to do next? Because he's a valuable piece of the show.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. Yeah, to me, Drew McIntyre is the MVP overall. I mean, I think he is the best performer on Raw. But I think I'd have to go with Priest as far as most important this year, just because of, like I said, all of the barriers and the challenges that they put in front of him. And he's just, I mean, I know we've had the errors in the matches and the 3 count and everything at the PLE, but overall, I mean, this guy has thrived with these challenges, and it's been credit where credit's due. It's been something to watch. He's done a phenomenal job. So yeah, that was Monday Night Raw. And I don't know, did you see any big news items out there? I didn't really have anything. I was kind of looking through as we started the show. Nothing real big for talking points.
Nothing big. NXT, the first Great American Bash is tonight on NXT. It's a headlined, I think. Well, there's a women's title match, Thea Hale against Roxanne Perez, as this bird joins me. But also, there's a Joe Hendry concert on Great American Bash tonight. I am very interested to see what they do with that and how that draws. Like, we'll see, like, just how much everybody should believe in Joe Hendry when that ratings number comes back tonight, because WWE's pushing that on its main channels, its main social channels. It's on the website. They talked about it last night on Raw. Like, but we'll see. Let's see how much. Let's see if he can deliver. If it's just kind of a gimmicky TNA thing, or if it's something a little bit more real than that. I'm real interested to see how that goes tonight on the NXT show. But yeah, no. Other than that, kind of a quiet news day. We hit the news yesterday, and I'm sure we'll have more to come tomorrow as we lead into Dynamite.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be talking about NXT tomorrow morning. You guys can join us, and then we'll be previewing AEW Dynamite. Should be a lot of fun as always. So you can check us out at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central here on the channel tomorrow. While you're here, hit that like button, help us out, subscribe to the channel. We would really, really appreciate that. And again, you can check out Zach and I tomorrow morning. Zach, anything happening at Brass Ring Media today?
Guys, yeah, we got our flagship show tonight. 8:30 Eastern. We will be live on YouTube talking all things wrestling. We got, obviously we'll spend some time on Raw. We're going to do a full SummerSlam preview too, because it's kind of our WWE focused show. So if you want to preview SummerSlam and chat a little later, head over to Brass Ring Media on YouTube, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you know when we're live, and we'll see you at 8:30 Eastern tonight.
Yeah, check those guys out. Top Rope Nation, I've got our flagship this Thursday, but tonight we will be recording a members-only show for our patrons. It's our monthly classic show where we deep dive on an old wrestling event as voted on by our patrons, and that will be WCW Bash at the Beach 2000. A horrible show, which we will be running down and laughing about tonight over on our Patreon feed. So if you want to hear that and 150 plus bonus shows for members only, you can join the Top Rope Nation Patreon feed. Go to our YouTube channel. You can find the link there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Would really, really appreciate that as well. You can find Zach on social media at Zach_Heydorn, and I am at Ryan Droste. Join us tomorrow morning, and we'll catch you all then. Zach, stay safe. Have a good day downtown, man.
Thanks, man. See you later. Nice shirt. Appreciate you guys. Talk soon.
All right. See you guys tomorrow morning.